I was walking up to the bank one afternoon, and something in that glass stopped me cold. The man looking back at me. I didn't recognize him, and I was angry. That was the moment everything changed. I used to be over 280 pounds, exhausted, depressed, and not happy with the man I was becoming. And so my MO back then was just make a whole bunch of money, and if I run my body into the ground, I'll take care of it later. Hello, I'm Anthony Williams. I'm a husband, a father, a personal trainer, and an online fitness coach. I used to be over 280 pounds. And I remember when I was overweight, everything in life was very difficult. Like even just getting out of the bed. I remember I would roll over and get up vertical. And as soon as that happened, I was just miserable in my own skin throughout the entire day till I laid back down. Like I felt like the weight of the world was literally on my shoulders every moment of every day. And when I walked over to the mirror in the morning, I remember looking in the mirror and I would just feel nothing looking at the person on the other side. I remember back then, my temperament and my mood was very different than it is today. I had this overall feeling of anxiety and just a general feeling of struggle just to make it through the day or to survive. I was very angry all the time. Like I remember everything would get me irritable, whether it was my wife or my kids or something at work with a coworker or one of my bosses. There was always conflict brewing from within me back in those days. In terms of my mood, I was very up and down throughout the day. Back then I was addicted to Dr. Pepper. So I would start my day with a sugar rush, and then I would quickly crash within 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and then I would just be miserable, and I'd make everyone around me miserable as well. And then once I had my other hit, I would be on top of the world again. I would feel awesome, and then I would crash again. And because of this, I developed an addiction to Dr. Pepper. I must have gone through 6 to 12 bottles on any given day easily. As far as my health, it was very, very lacking. Like I remember just getting into my truck would cause me to get winded. That's how bad it was. And don't even get me started on snacking. All day long, I would be pulling snacks out of the vending machine, chips, candies, anything I could snatch up, I was trying to snack on it. And even when I got home, there would be mini cupcakes, cookies, and on top of that, there would probably be a beer for me or some type of alcohol every night. And I remember back then in my own skin and in my own body, everything was a struggle. Like even basic small things like tying my shoe, walking up and down stairs, walking around all day. Everything felt like it was epic just to get through it. I don't know how else to describe it. And overall, I would be going through my day feeling very fatigued. I would feel devoid of energy and like I was just going through the motions. Like I was there, but I wasn't really there. And at the time, I had a job at a car dealership, and just walking around the lot, my knees and my ankles would just be inflamed after about halfway through the day. And by the time I got home, by the time I got in my truck to drive home, I would just be throbbing, and I would have a headache, and I would feel like my heart was working overtime just to maintain. And because of my physical condition back then, my relationships were very lacking. I was very distant from my family, from my wife and my kids. I would spend a lot of time doom scrolling. And whenever I went out with my family, they could always sense that I was very self-conscious about how I was looking and how I was showing up. I remember I was playing with my kids one day, and I went to pick one of them up, and my shirt came up. And my wife immediately grabbed it and pulled it back down as quick as she could. And that's a small thing, but I remember feeling so dejected, and like I lost all my confidence in that moment. And my kids saw this. And so I got real quiet, and I withdrew within myself. And after a while, she saw this and she said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go take a nap." And I got up, I walked upstairs, and I laid in bed, and I just laid in my bed, and I just ended up doom scrolling for like an hour after that. Now, back then, I made a lot of money working at a car dealership. And when I needed to, I did well enough with people as I needed to in order to make sales and to make a good income. But outside of that, I was overall a very moody person and very disagreeable. And also, I was very conflicted on the inside. So that would result in a lot of conflict with customers or coworkers, and especially my managers and my bosses. And a few times I butted heads with people, and looking back, I really regret that that happened. It's kind of embarrassing to think about it today. Then, as far as being a husband and a provider, I didn't really think much or have much respect for taking care of my body and my mind. Back then, what was most important to me was that I made a lot of money so that I could provide a roof over my family's head, provide plenty of food and good drinks for us, have a nice car, and have all the material things that we needed. Also, I wanted to make sure that the kids had all the gadgets that they wanted, because in my mind, that equaled being happy. And in my mind, that equaled having respect and being a provider. And my MO was just make a whole bunch of money right now. And as far as my body and my mind, I'll take care of all of that later. And as far as my relationships, I had the same thinking. Let me make all this money now, and then I'll spend time with my wife and my kids later. And you know, looking back, I had a very distorted view on what was important as a father and a leader of the family. What I've come full circle to realize today is that it's the time, the moments with your family. That's what's most important. Not how much money you can make and not material things. That stuff comes and goes. But who I am today, I understand what's most important, first off, is my mind, my heart, and my body. As long as I take good care of this first, I have an anchor in the ground to take care of everything else in my life. My loved ones, my home, my career, everything else takes care of itself if I started with my mind and my body and my health first. And my eating habits were very lacking. It normally consisted of fast food or something frozen or something fast. It always had sugar or something fried in it. And it was very high in fat. And it was really, my selection was based upon whatever would just put me in a better mood right then at that moment. And also when I was shopping for my family, which was always on the go or ordering takeout or stopping and going through a drive-through on the way home, no matter where I was or what I was doing. And that trickled over into my family as well. My wife started eating like that, and my kids just started eating like that. And we were all in a mode that this was just normal. And I remember in my body, I would feel very inflamed. I had a lot of gut issues happening. I had a lot of, not to get too graphic, but let's just say I had a lot of stomach issues back in those days. And I also remember having a lot of discontentment just inside in general, a lot of aches and pains, headaches, and I would have a lot of burning sensations, both like in my stomach area, in my legs, my knees would be throbbing, my ankles would be throbbing, my feet would be throbbing. And overall, it was just a very tough and miserable existence just to be in my skin. Every day, traffic was the same. It was a cycle of me getting impatient with other drivers and then getting angrier stoplight by stoplight till by the time I got into work, I just wanted to pound. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would be up at a 7 or 8 on how angry I was. And that's not the best way to start the day. And so this continued for years, this same cycle daily. And finally, it got to a point where something happened to me one day that triggered me. So one day I was called up to my finance manager because I had hit a sales quota. And so I had gotten this bonus check. And back then, the dealership was still cutting bonus checks on these paper checks. They were called spiff checks or specialty bonus. So anyways, he handed me a paper check, pat me on the back and said, "Congratulations, you had a great month this last month." And I remember feeling so confident and so proud of myself. And so because it was a paper check, I had to go to the bank to deposit it. So during my lunch, I drove to the bank, got out my truck, and I was walking up to the front entrance. And I remember I was so proud of myself. And my head was so big, and I was walking up, and I saw a reflection in the glass. The office or the bank lobby had a glass reflection, a frontage. And I'm walking up, and I saw this figure as I was walking up, and I stopped, and it shocked me. Now, that figure was me. And I was immediately very, very disappointed in what I had seen. And I was very shocked. Now, to give you an idea, my face looked like a third bigger than what I had recalled it in my mind it looked like. I looked like a penguin, and I was starting to develop this waddle as I walked. And I remember I was slowly walking up to it as I was looking, and I had this epiphany moment, like this moment that said, "That is not you." And I remember I looked right in the eyes of this person closely as I walked up, and I got angry. I said, "I hate that person that I have become. This person who had gotten so soft, both in physical form, in my body, and in my mind. This person who didn't have any control of what he was eating, what he was thinking, how he was living." And I remember I totally forgot about the check. And I said, you know what? I'm going to change this starting today. Starting right now, I'm going to take action. So I decided in that moment that I would start working out. And so I took it upon myself to lose the weight by starting a walk to run program that I had just found online. Now, the problem with this program, looking back now as a trainer, is that it wasn't that it was the wrong thing to do, but I didn't understand conditioning. And my body, quite frankly, was just not even conditioned enough to start with that intense of a program. But at the time, it was doing something. So I started my evenings when I got home from work, and I started walking, and I would shoot for walking for a minute and running for a minute. And very quickly I learned I couldn't even do that. Like, I would walk for about 40 seconds before I'd have to stop, catch my breath. And then on the running part, forget about it. I was probably about 15, 20 seconds in, and I had to stop. Now, unfortunately, I learned the hard way that my joints, my knees, my bone structure, and my ankles and my feet were just not ready for all of this. So I very quickly developed plantar fasciitis, which is essentially pains in my heels. And I developed pains all through my knees. My knees started pinching and having the sharp pain whenever I'd walk around the lot. But being egotistical back then, I told myself I just need to play through the pain. And it just kept getting worse. And my wife kept telling me, you need to stop, something isn't right. It was to the point I started developing a limp. So it got to the point that I had to go to see a doctor. The doctor was telling me to stop. Stop what you're doing. You're putting too much pressure on your joints. And you're impacting them too much, including your spine. And what he recommended is I go and I get with a personal trainer, either in a gym or at home. And so I went and I joined a gym, and I got a personal trainer. And this trainer introduced me to a totally different mode of working out and training that has totally changed my life. In fact, it's the same style of training that I use this day and that I incorporate when I work with my clients who are in their midlife and they're trying to lose weight. Is a full body, circuit-based, timed interval training method. And it starts off with just body weight movements only. And the reason it works out so well is because when you're overweight and you're first starting off, you run the risk of putting too much impact on your joints. So this mode of working out is very easy on your joints and your bones. And you're able to work multiple compound muscle movements in basic primal movements you do every day. The other reason is that the intervals are a great way to control the intensity of your heart rate and the intensity of the energy you're expending during the exercise, which is very important when you're first starting a weight loss journey. The other reason is it keeps your mind very engaged. It's a very interesting way of working out that actually keeps you in the workout moment by moment, and it keeps you grounded and engaged in the movement you're doing, and it has an excitement level behind it that traditional sets and reps in a gym or getting on a piece of cardio equipment and just staying there statically would ever do. And so I started on this program with the trainer, and I saw him once a week. And after about a couple of weeks, immediately I started noticing that I would wake up in the morning in a much better mood and I would have more energy. And that energy and that clarity would spill over into my work day and with my family whenever I got home. The other thing I noticed is I wasn't as moody as I was before. I didn't get easily as triggered. I was able to calm down and see things as they were. If someone would give me a hard time or make a joke, I would be okay with it. I would calm down and I would, in fact, a lot of times I started getting sharper and I would start joking with them back. We called them one-liners back on the lot. So someone would one-line me, it used to trigger me. But now a guy would one-line me and I'd one-line him right back. And so my wife got very inspired during these days. And she decided that she wanted to become a personal trainer and get certified herself. So she ended up going and buying this DVD series that was a workout series for women. And she started doing them there in the living room at the house. And one day I came out and she was in the middle of doing one of her intervals. And I jumped in and I started doing it with her as a joke. And it was kind of funny that it automatically became this contest for me to keep up with her. Now, this workout, it was I'm not going to say what it was, but it was a interval-based circuit workout, and it was the same programming. It was full body circuits. And I started doing it with her, and next thing I know, we're about 5 or 6 intervals in, and I'm in the workout. And we're sitting there doing it together, and it's no longer a joke. I'm just doing it, and I'm enjoying it. And it's kind of, and we started laughing, and we're right there with each other. It was like this magical thing that just made us laugh and gave us a lot of joy together in those moments. And the funny thing is I kept doing it with her. It became a part of my day off from the gym workout as I would do this workout with her. And crazy enough, the kids started seeing this, and every once in a while they would jump in and do one of these intervals with us. And so over the next year, I was able to shred off about 30 to 40 pounds. And I got down to around 230 to 220. Now, I was feeling phenomenal in these days. And also around this time, I remember I had gotten so strong, I just picked my wife up just to see if I could. And it was such an exhilarating feeling for her and for me that I just swooped her up and I was just carrying her and twirling her around. And the kids were laughing and my wife was just, I mean, she was amazed that I could do that. And there's nothing like that feeling as a father and as a man of just picking up a loved one, and they feel like, I don't know how to describe it. To them, I've had it described as like they just felt so safe that they had such a strong person in the house who could protect them. It's very primal. And so this continued for a couple of years where I was on my workout grind, I was staying consistent, I was staying disciplined, and I even started intensifying them. And it was around this time that the trainer that I first started with at the gym I was working at, he approached me and he said, "Hey man, we just lost our sales guy and the manager of the gym wants to talk to you about potentially working here as a membership and training salesperson." And so the manager called me into the office and I sat across from him and he's like, "Hey man, and so, yeah, I've been watching you do your thing here and I want to see if you'd be interested in selling here full time." And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know, man. I'm still not in the best of shape compared to a lot of people in here." And he said, "No, that's exactly why I want you, because the number one problem we have here at the gym is people will come in to check out the gym and they're intimidated. But if there was somebody like you who is actively going through the process and actively using the product, then you have a story to tell and you would be able to put them at ease. And so I went home and I told my wife, and she was like, yeah, honey, you should totally do this. This is you. So I just went ahead and I did it. I went in and I applied and I interviewed and got the position. And that started me in my fitness career. And so after about a year of just killing it in fitness sales, I was still regularly working out during my breaks and before or after my shift. And it got to the point where one day I had just gotten done with this really, really intense HIIT workout. And this workout was so intense that I was on the ground shivering, trying to recover. I was catching my breath and I was very lightheaded, and I came up and I said, you know, I'm working so hard and I'm so dialed in right now. Why can't I get rid of this last little pouch? Like, I still have this little gut that just won't go away. And out of nowhere, it just hit me like a light bulb. It's nutrition. You see, I was still eating junk, maybe not so much as I was when I was severely overweight, but I still was not eating clean. I was still eating junk and relying on the workout to try to fix the problem, whether it's food, drink, or snacks. I am going to meticulously observe anything before I ingest it. And so I started journaling. For about 1 week, I had a little book and I wrote down everything before it went into my mouth. And that was a major eye-opener for me. And so I learned very quickly that it wasn't that I was overeating, it was that I was eating the wrong sources of foods for what I was wanting to accomplish. And so I started on this program of tracking my macros. And from that point forward is when I saw the biggest returns in everything I was doing in terms of getting rid of the final midsection body fat. And from those days, I have not stopped. Year after year, I've mashed down on the gas and increased the intensity and dialed in month by month and year after year. And so implementing these methods, I've been able to help dozens of fathers and men to lose 20 to 50 pounds over 3 to 6 months consistently and keep it off. And now at the age of 49, I have come full circle to the point where I'm ready to share that with you. And I'm ready to help you on your journey. And I'm ready to show you and help you. And it's way easier to do than what you think. And so the reason for this channel is because I know what it's like to silently live day by day in desperation, to feel like you're slowly slipping behind as a husband, as a father, and overall as a man in your own skin and in your own body. And so if this resonates with you in any way, like, subscribe, follow, and hit that notification bell so that you can get the most out of all of my content and you can start to level up your mind your body, your health, and your life in every way.